For my occupation, I found myself residing in quite remote locations, with annual relocations being the norm. Throughout my initial years with the firm, each place I settled in had its unique charm. Yet there was one location that was exceptionally secluded. Surrounded by an abundance of nature and vast expanses of land, the urban aspects were minimal. The seclusion afforded me the opportunity to dwell in a rather splendid residence. It was far from luxurious, yet it stood out as superior compared to my previous abodes. Engaging in running was a favorite pastime of mine for staying active. My routes often took me along the edges of scarcely trafficked roads, devoid of sidewalks, but also devoid of much vehicular activity. This tranquility meant I could run roadside with minimal concern. On one particular evening, returning from a variable work schedule, I felt unusually energized and decided to embark on a run. Despite the lateness of the hour, my vigor was undiminished. Exiting my home after work, I ventured onto my local street before merging onto a somewhat busier thoroughfare. Busier in this context simply meant larger, as it was still a rarity to see cars traversing it. It was around 9:00 p.m. I began my jog along the road's edge, a path that stretched out for miles. Typically, I would run a certain distance, then double back. About 10 minutes into my jog, a vehicle slowly passed me. I didn't give it much thought after it passed, assuming it had taken a turn off somewhere out of my sight. It could have taken an alternate route for all I knew because, a few minutes later, I noticed the same vehicle approaching from the direction it originally came from. Initially, I considered the possibility that it was merely another vehicle of the same make and model, though such a coincidence seemed quite peculiar. My focus was primarily on my run, minimizing distractions, yet this occurrence struck me as odd. As the vehicle overtook me once more, it began to decelerate and initiated a stop a short distance ahead on my side of the road, positioning itself in a way that blocked my path. Given the remote location, I speculated the driver might be lost. The car angled itself, forcing me to choose between a wide detour onto the grass or veering significantly onto the road. Nearing the vehicle with an intent to bypass it via the grass, the car door swung open, revealing an individual clad in black, complete with a ski mask. This sight prompted an immediate reversal of my direction, as the figure began to exit the vehicle while I was still some distance away. Shifting into a jog back the way I came, I refrained from glancing over my shoulder, though the sound of the door shutting indicated the person had re-entered the car. Shortly thereafter, I detected the sound of the vehicle as it resumed its pursuit. With its imminent approach, uncertainty clouded my thoughts. My runs were unencumbered by belongings. No phone, just a Fitbit and a single house key, as I preferred not to carry items while jogging. The notion of needing assistance in such a secluded setting had never crossed my mind. The individual in the vehicle was closing in, yet fortune was on my side. Another vehicle appeared in the distance, heading my way. Despite the persistent follower, I seized the moment to step into the road center, frantically signaling the oncoming car in hopes it would halt for me. The approaching car decelerated and came to a halt, and just as it did, the pursuing vehicle maneuvered around us and sped away. The person in the car that had stopped for me wound down their window, seemingly beginning to inquire about the situation. I gestured towards the disappearing car, explaining it had been tailing me. Once the car vanished from view, I hastened back to my home, navigating my way through the streets until I reached safety. Upon arriving, I contacted the police to report the incident. That experience marked the end of my nighttime outdoor runs. The event was particularly shocking given the utter remoteness of the area. Though I've since moved from that location, the memory of that night lingers with me constantly. A couple of years back, my partner and I embarked on a nationwide road trip, making stops at numerous parks along the way. We had a preference for state parks, though we didn't limit ourselves exclusively to them. Hiking was a shared interest, with my partner showing a bit more enthusiasm than myself, though I found enjoyment in it as well. Around 5 days into our journey, which had been filled with remarkable sights, we found ourselves somewhere in the western part of the country. Specifically, it could have been New Mexico, Colorado, or Arizona, but the exact location eludes me. The sun was nearing the horizon, and we had left a park a couple of hours earlier. With our next hotel a few hours' drive away, we were enjoying the drive in an area my girlfriend was particularly fond of. Upon spotting a sign for another park, she suggested we explore it, prompting me to veer off the main road onto a quieter path. Obliging, I veered off onto a serene road that led us to a secluded parking area adjacent to a hiking trail. The surroundings were a breathtaking blend of mountainous terrain and expansive desert. A few miles down, we'd encountered a modest lot designated for trail access. Eager for a brief exploration, my girlfriend proposed a quick hike. Judging by the fading light, we estimated a mere 20 minutes of daylight remained. Agreeing to her suggestion, we found ourselves the sole visitors in the parking area, enveloped by the tranquil silence of the setting. Venturing onto the path, we took a moment, about 10 minutes in, to capture the stunning landscape with our cameras. It was then we realized the absence of cellular service, isolating us further in our surroundings. As dusk transformed into night, we decided to return, navigating through the challenging terrain marked by undulating hills, dense rock formations, and scattered trees. As we approached the end of our hiking trail, the sense of accomplishment was palpable. The air was crisp, and the setting sun cast long shadows across the path, signaling the end of an adventurous day. However, the tranquil atmosphere was abruptly pierced by an unsettling anomaly as we neared the trailhead in our parked car. An unknown vehicle had materialized in our absence, its presence sending a ripple of unease through me. My attention was immediately drawn to a solitary figure lurking near our vehicle. With a sense of caution coursing through my veins, I motioned to my girlfriend, signaling her to stay back and follow my lead. We used the terrain to our advantage, stealthily moving behind a large boulder that offered a vantage point while keeping us hidden from the stranger's view. I whispered my observations to her, the possibility of a break-in attempt looming in our minds. From behind our makeshift cover, I risked a glance and was met with the unsettling sight of the figure now moving towards us. In that moment, adrenaline took over. We made a split decision to retreat back down the trail, blending into the shadows under the cloak of dusk. The silence was shattered by the sound of footsteps crunching on the path behind us, confirming our fears. The stranger had noticed our presence and was now in pursuit. Without a clear plan, but driven by a primal instinct to evade danger, we veered off the marked trail. Our escape led us to scramble onto a large rock and push our way through the underbrush, the thorns and branches tugging at our clothes and skin. The dimming light played tricks on our eyes, but we pressed on, determined to lose our pursuer in the wilderness. The terrain was unforgiving, forcing us to navigate with care yet with urgency, always mindful of the sounds that indicated we were still being followed. By some stroke of luck, or perhaps sheer will, we managed to circle back to the parking lot, emerging from the dense foliage to find ourselves once again facing our car, and the stranger's ominous presence not far behind. The sound of our heartbeat was deafening as we sprinted the final distance to our vehicle. The doors slammed shut with a resounding thud that echoed our relief as much as our haste to leave. Peeling out of the parking lot, I caught one last glimpse of the figure emerging from the brush in the rearview mirror. The sight of them fading into the distance as we merged onto the main road was the only closure we had. In the safety of our moving car, questions swirled in our heads. Who was this person, and what were their intentions? The unfamiliar vehicle, the deliberate approach towards ours, and the subsequent chase. None of it added up. It was evident that this was no park authority. The state of their vehicle and their lack of any recognizable uniform spoke volumes. The unnerving encounter left us wary, a stark reminder of the unpredictability of human nature. For the remainder of our trip, we opted out of any further dusk-time adventures, the memory of that evening casting a long shadow over our spirits. The identity of our pursuer remained an enigma, their intentions obscured by the night. What was clear, however, was our collective sigh of relief at having evaded a potentially dangerous situation, a testament to our instincts and the unspoken bond that had guided us safely out of harm's way.